Troublemaker.
All right.
And then we have to do the virtual handshake with David.
You can slide over one if you want.
It gets too confusing.
All right,
You know,
okay.
You'll think I'm David.
Okay, all right.
So I think it's easier to just let people assume that I'm alien.
Yeah, I like it. All right, council ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Call the meeting to order. Regular City Council meeting, City of American Canyon, for November 7, 2023. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Miriam Abadamos.
Here.
Councilmember Mark Joseph.
Here.
Councilmember David Oro.
Here.
Vice Mayor Pierre Washington.
Here.
Mayor Leon Garcia.
Here. Thank you. We'll move on now to report on closed session confirmation of reportable action. Mr. Ross?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, members of the public, the council convened an open session at 5:34 p.m. to ascertain if there were any comments on the matters agendized for closed session consideration. After finding that there were none, you adjourned to closed session to address the matters agendized for closed session consideration. Your closed session concluded at 6:12 p.m. There will be a written report upon return from closed session consistent with the provisions of Government Code Section 54979B. That would conclude the report unless there are questions.
Any questions from council members?
No, sir.
Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Ross. We'll move on. We have proclamations and presentations this evening. We have a little opportunity here after proclamations to have a little refreshment, courtesy of Mr. Nischel. Thank you. How long would council like to break for that? 10, 15?
Yes.
That sound good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We have a little 10-minute to 15-minute break right there, right after the proclamations. Okay, very good. Moving on with proclamations. Proclamation acknowledging Diwali. So I'm going to read the proclamation, and those of you not familiar with it will be more informed about this great celebration. Okay. Would you like to come to the podium, Mr. Nischel? Yep. Okay. Acknowledging Diwali, November 12th, 2023. Whereas Diwali, also known as Deepavali, is one of the most significant festivals celebrating by millions of people around the world, symbolizing the victory of light over darkness, good over evil, knowledge over ignorance. And whereas Diwali is a time of great joy and festivity, marked by lighting of lamps, candles, and fireworks, signifying the triumph of light and dispelling of darkness from our lives. And whereas Diwali is a time for families and communities to come together, exchange gifts, share delicious meals, engage in cultural and religious ceremonies that strengthen bonds, foster understanding, and celebrate the rich traditions of the Indian and South Asian communities within our city. And whereas Diwali encourages reflection on our shared values of compassion, tolerance, and respect for all individuals, regardless of their background or beliefs, promoting a sense of unity, inclusivity, and harmony within our diverse city. And whereas the City of American Canyon recognizes the importance of celebrating and respecting the culture and religious diversity that enriches our community and contributes to our city's vibrant and inclusive character. And whereas the City of American Canyon wishes to acknowledge and honor the contributions of our Indian and South Asian residents who play a vital role in the culture, social, and economic life of our city. And now, therefore, I, Mayor Leon Garcia, along with members of the City Council, do hereby acknowledge Diwali on November 12, 2023, and encourage all residents to join in the celebration of this important festival. We extend our warmest wishes to all those celebrating Diwali, and we too celebrate the principles of light, love, and community that Diwali represents.
You have said very well. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you. Thank you for answering us. Thank you.
We'll do a
Thank you for honoring us.
let's take a picture. Okay? Now, come around.
So we can get David in the background. Yeah.
Mr. Mitchell, you have some comments? Have everybody's attention, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Leon, Mayor, council members, city officials, and our friends over here. Thank you very much for coming over here to celebrate the biggest festival.
Mr. Nisso, sorry to interrupt, but your microphone's not on. We can't hear you over here.
It's on now. Right,
Okay,
start
great.
from the top.
It's okay?
Yeah.
Not too close. All right. All right. So thanks very much for coming today. Today is the festival we celebrate every year in India, not only in India, but also in all of the world. Celebrated in Washington, D.C., in White House, celebrated in 10 Downing Street in London, in Europe, Australia, everywhere. So this event is very popular in India. We decorate our house with lights to kill the darkness. The whole country is lighted, so it's against the darkness. Secondly, it's a victory over evil. So we have no enemies, we all friends together. So in this day, all the children's, elderly people's, young ladies, and everybody wear the new clothes. They enjoy exchanging gifts, and we celebrate with the firecrackers, and children enjoy that one. We celebrate sweets, and we worship our God. God is Ganesha, who is the God of wisdom. So give us good knowledge and good power to think about this one. And secondly is the goddess of Lakshmi, goddess of wealth. We need all the time wealth. Everybody need wealth, so we worship her. Please give us extra money. so we can, prosper in our life. So that's what we do it on that day. And we invite our friends, they come, we exchange gifts, and we celebrate it. Thank you very much for coming. And today I brought some cake for everybody, they can enjoy it. And secondly, I have some sweet dish, samosas, they love it. Everybody love it, and Teresa also.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Neshel.
So we welcome everybody to come over here. Thank you very much for coming. And we celebrate, say one time, Happy Diwali!
Happy Diwali.
Holly.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say I love that sentiment. We should consider decorating City Hall with lights to get rid of the evil. Make sure we combat any darkness that comes our way.
It's a great celebration. All right. Well, thank you very much for that. I'd like to now move on to a resolution on proclamation on Veterans Day. And I know this celebration is coming up this coming weekend, and would like to see as many veterans as possible and families to attend. That with being said, I'll begin. Veterans Day 2023. Whereas the City of American Canyon recognizes the significant and lasting contributions made by our veterans who have dedicated their lives to service to our great nation. And whereas Veterans Day is a day to pay tribute to all American veterans, living or deceased, who have served honorably during war or peacetime, and it is a day to show our gratitude for their bravery, dedication, and sacrifice. And whereas the men and women who have donned the uniform of the United States Armed Forces have defended our freedoms, protected our security, and preserved the values and principles upon which our nation was founded. And whereas their selfless commitment and sacrifice have safeguarded our democracy and allowed the United States to remain a beacon of liberty and opportunity for people around the world. And whereas American Canyon is home to many veterans and their families, and we are committed to honoring, supporting, and thanking them for their service. And whereas our community is deeply grateful to the sacrifices made by our veterans and their families, and we will continue to work tirelessly to ensure that they receive the care, support, and respect they deserve. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Leon Garcia, along with City Council, do hereby proclaim November 11, 2023 as Veterans Day and call upon all residents to observe this day with appropriate ceremonies, activities, and expressions of gratitude to our veterans for their service. Be it further resolved that we express our enduring gratitude to all veterans and their families for their service, and we pledge to uphold the principles and values that they defended, ensuring that the sacrifices made by our veterans are never forgotten. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now we'll get a picture. Photo op.
I know I saw it, but from far away it looked like Morocco.
You want to say something? You say, if you say something, I'll say something.
Okay.
I'll say something after you.
Good evening. On behalf of Cindy Biederman, she couldn't be here tonight, so she asked Hugh and I to accept the proclamation. And I just want to thank you for the proclamation on behalf of all the veterans.
I want to say thank you. Again, Cindy invited us to accept this. Remember our veterans who have come back. Many of them are struggling, and think of them. A lot of them are really struggling after the conflicts. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Mr. Mayor, since we're also going to have our ceremony on the 11th, can we have a plug about date, time, place?
Yes, at the American Canyon Middle School Gymnasium this Saturday at 11 o'clock, we're having our Veterans Day ceremony. All of you are invited. I hope to see you there. Thank you.
11th month, 11th day, 11th hour. Okay, very good. We'll take a brief recess here. We do have some cake outside. I'm sure the kids out there are going to love it too. All right. So let's try for a return in about 10 minutes. Okay.
We're going to do that. Oh, sorry.
For the double check, thank you.
Because I don't want to have to go through all that. So we'll do that. We definitely will. How's it going? Good. Good. We are today. Put a comment in the for sure. I know that.
Oh, no, I love to hang around with my kids.
Okay, council, shall we return to the dais, please? Thank you, everybody. Great festivities. Always good to have samosas and cake. And to everybody, happy Diwali. Okay. Somebody want to get the other door there? Thank you. Everybody from Little League who wants, going to be pretty close to being up next. Okay, very good. All right, we'll return from recess. Do we have any public comment on items not on closed session? I'm sorry, on, yes, or open session.
Mayor Garcia, we have no written comments. And I have no cards for items not on the agenda.
Okay, anybody in the audience have any comments not on the agenda?
Are you going in there?
One more time. Anybody on the in the audience having a comment that is not on the agenda? Very good. Then public comment is closed. Council would like to for us to entertain a little change in our agenda. I'd like to bring up the item number 17, which is the Little League lease agreement. If we could take care of that now before we continue with the rest of our calendar. Is there an agreement on that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
A motion to that effect, please?
So moved.
Sorry.
I'll second.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm having a technical difficulty here. Just
Okay.
one moment. I've got to catch up.
Got it?
Sorry. Okay. And what? Who made the motion?
I made the motion. Should we do this after our consent calendar, just to get that out of the way? And
Just want to get this taken care of first.
okay. So I move to move 17 up to right after the consent calendar.
And I second it.
Thank you. And
Okay.
yep. And Councilmember Abadamas,
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph,
Yes.
Councilmember Oro,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington,
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes. Okay. So the motion in effect was to move it up after the consent calendar?
And yes. And Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar.
Very good. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamas,
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph,
Yes.
Councilmember Oro,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington,
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes. Thank you, council. We'll move now to our business item number 17, Little League lease agreement. Staff report, please.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. The item before the council is approval of a lease agreement with American Canyon Little League for their use of the Little League complex over at 280 Napa Junction Road. The facility has been there a long time, and American Canyon Little League has been using the facility for many, many years. And so their current lease is due to expire over the next couple of months, and staff has been working with representatives from the Little League to create a new lease agreement that would last for the next 5 years. This new agreement allows for the Little League to use the facility, and they generally take care of the maintenance of the facility. We don't charge them for use of the facility. In exchange, they maintain it. We do help defray some of the maintenance costs. In addition, there are some renovation costs that we're looking to pull forward and take care of in the near term. And so the city would be
Excuse me, Mr.
agreeing-
Holly. Excuse me. Somebody please close the back door, please.
Mayor, we actually can't close that door.
We can't.
The Brown Act says we need to leave it open. I'm sorry.
Oh, all right. So we ask people in the hallway to take their conversation further away, please.
That should be a good enough hint for them.
Well, I could hear it here, but I think the conversation in the hallway is kind of keeping people in the back from hearing it. So,
As a part of this new agreement, the city is going to upfront some additional funds to have some renovations happen, specifically on the irrigation system and the outfield fences and some of the playing surfaces. We know that Little League is also seeking out grant fundings from third parties to augment these funds from the city. We're also modifying some provisions of the lease that would allow Little League to kind of sublease this property to either, say, travel ball teams or for tournaments and those sorts of things. And that's something that they would manage on their own and be able to do that. So there would be a budget item related to this in the amount of $40,000. We're recommending using the general fund balance to cover the first year of the agreement, and then subsequent years would be in forthcoming budget cycles. And happy to answer any other questions. I know there's some representatives from Little League here tonight, and I believe there may be some online as well who may want to make some comments.
Any comments at this time from council?
No, sir.
Councilmember Oral, anything? Okay, very good. All right. Well, why don't we open a public comment on this matter at this time? Anybody from representatives from Little League? Welcome, Little League, here tonight. It's great to have you here.
Oh, boy.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, Mr. Hawley, everyone else in attendance. You guys can hear me okay here?
Mr. Mayor, please turn on the microphone.
Yep, got it. It's on.
Okay, I'll start over. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, Mr. Hawley, Mr. Ross, other people here in attendance as well. I'm Rob Hall. I'm currently the field coordinator for the Little League, former president of the Little League. Our current president, Nikki Pacheco, is out of town, could not make it today. We have other board members in attendance as well. Just want to say we appreciate the work with the city to get this new contract in place and working with us to really work to upgrade these fields. As Mr. Hawley stated, we are working with third parties to try to get additional funding to really update those fields. We've been privileged. I've had 3 kids in the program. 1 is currently at the high school playing ball, 2 in the program right now. And you can see other kids that are currently in our program. It's such a blessing to have these kids out here. We had a great opportunity over the last 50 years. So Little League's been operating in that facility, I believe, for 50 plus years now. And to have people come through and to be able to teach these kids community, leadership, sportsmanship, collaboration. I mean, all these things they learn through this program. But one of the biggest things is seeing the community come out and support this group. If any of you have not attended an opening day for Little League, it is a great event in the community. We get several hundred people out there, and it's a great community building event. So I encourage you all to come out for this year's Little League opening day, which is March 9th. And it's just a great opportunity for the kids to learn sports, to learn different things through sports, and a great opportunity again for the community to give back. I think if I missed anything else. I talked about that already. So yeah, we appreciate the city's support with the contract, with additional help with that. We are planning to really focus on different areas of the field, including the softball side. Our softball girls have done a great job in representing the community and going pretty far in some of the tournaments, along with the baseball boys as well, have done great in local tournaments and represented the city very, very well. And so I just, again, want to say thank you to the council, and I think all the kids and all the people here appreciate this work.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there another speaker on this matter?
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
All right. My name is Derek Flathers. Thank you guys very much for allowing us this time to represent the Little League and the community itself. We really appreciate your guys' collaboration and partnership over the years. It's been a true pleasure. And I just want to kind of reiterate the importance of this to the community itself. This is what it's all about. It's all about the families. It's all about the individuals up here. And, you know, this is the second time my son has been to a city council meeting. He's very fortunate, and I don't think he realizes how fortunate he is. But every week when baseball season starts, these kids get to go out there and shine. They get to go out there and show everybody what it's about to be a kid and have fun. And it's important to make sure that our facilities are in the best shape possible. And you guys can help us make that happen. So we really want to encourage you guys to do what you can to help us get this expedited before the next season starts. And I just want to kind of reiterate what Rob was saying. We really need this done by February, if possible, before our season starts. If you have been out there, it shows that it's been out there for about 50 years. It shows the concrete's not very safe. We have a lady by the name of Lulu who goes out there every game to watch her grandson play baseball. And she goes out there with her walker. And she's out there trying to navigate through the potholes and all the bumps and stuff like that. And it's kind of treacherous at times. But we want to see more people come out and enjoy themselves. And we don't want safety to be a hazard. So we appreciate anything you can do to help us get that ready to go before the next season starts. So hopefully in February, you guys can assist us with that. So just want to say thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Another speaker on this matter? Go ahead, Fred.
I'd like to say that for 50 years, I've seen them out there playing ball. And I have to say that the adults just take such good care of that field. They're out there every Saturday morning, and they don't bother anybody. They go in and they work out on the yard. They try to keep it nice. And I see the bleachers are out now. They're getting ready for the cement work that it needs to have done. But I truly, truly believe that it's the best thing for the children to have that opportunity to play Little League, and it's memories that they take with them forever. So it's about time the city helped with the Little League. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there another speaker?
Kenneth Leary, 43 Via Marciana. I wasn't going to say anything, but then thinking about this, how important this is. And I was thinking about, how do we support our youth? If it's not through education, recreation, and enrichment, we can't support them without that. The problem that comes down to it is the basic need of money and resources. Saying, our youth are our future. Well, we're not funding that way, but it's hard for cities to do that. Right now, we should be thinking about where and who we are taxing. 1950s, corporations were taxed at 95%. We had the largest, fastest growth of a middle class in the world. Today, corporate income tax are like below 20%, and they've been pushing it to go lower and lower. We need to change that. You want a better community, a safer community? You want our children to be able to do any activity they want to do to help them grow? We've got to change the tax structure at the top, because until that happens, we'll be fighting and arguing with council members and other people who really don't have all the means to be able to do everything we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there another speaker? No one else from the audience? If you want it, this is your opportunity. Okay, anybody online?
There are no hands raised online.
Nobody online?
Mayor Garcia, there are no hands raised online.
Very good, thank you. All right. Okay, I'll say a last call for a public comment from the audience. If not, well, we'll close public comment. We'll take it back to City Council for further discussion. Vice Mayor Washington.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. A quick question. I'd just like to see a show of hands of the adults who took advantage when they were young, if you can remember that long ago, that were part of Little League. It's amazing. It's amazing because the hands that are up, shows you what Little League can do for you. And I'm a big supporter and advocate for the Little Leagues. I think that it's something that really makes young men and young women develop into great citizens for our cities, for our country, and I'm impressed. And I applaud Mr. Holly and our council for getting behind this. You know, some letters were written out in support of this, and I think 50 years is a long time. You know, I'm turning 60 this year, and I need some maintenance done. So I know. So yeah, I just want to say I applaud everyone that's here tonight. You know, all the people that partook in Little League when they were young, and the little ones that are here today, showing your smiling faces that you are our future. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Joseph.
Well, actually, I would echo all those remarks, and I, quite honestly, since I think this is a good arrangement, I'm glad we worked it out. I'm glad we're able to augment what we have provided over the years so that they can make some of those major renovations. So unless there was any other comments, I was just going to make a motion to approve the lease agreement.
Yeah, there's more comments here.
Oh, okay.
Councilor
Then I'll
Joseph.
just leave it with that.
There will
I'll
be
let
time
you
for
make
that.
the motion. I just wanted to say, basically echo what my colleagues are saying and say, it's been a long time coming, and I'm really excited about these major renovations, and I can't wait to go out there and not be afraid to trip when I walk as well. And hopefully we can have them done for opening day. Maybe I can wear heels.
I'd like to weigh in then. Little League, wow, that brings back a lot of memories for me. And I'm so I take a lot of pride in what we have here in American Canyon. You know, it's very built by the hands of community. The city supports that. You offer a program that is very affordable compared to other areas where they have Little League. And I applaud you for that. That matters a lot. I don't know how many times I've gone to opening day. And yes, I confess, with the encouragement of former council member Joan Bennett, we started that "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" song. And I always enjoy people joining in. The thing that I really like about it is you see that arc of all the kids and the coaches around in the background. And you see the little ones who can't be more than, I don't know, what's the minimum age, 4 or 5, something like that? 4, yeah. All the way to the kids are now progressing to something, I don't know what a higher level is beyond that. And that takes great pride in it. I think congratulate yourselves for that, all that work you've done. I think the last time I was there, I was sitting, it was the 50th anniversary. And I'm sitting next to a gentleman who had been there from the very beginning. And he had a program. I don't know if it was the first day, but or probably the second one. It had I could see the eucalyptus tree where Fran Limo's house is there. And all the work they were describing, all the work they had put together to build those Little League fields there, the baseball fields. So I thank you very much for all the work you've done. It's really from the heart. This is a great service for the community and for our kids, and it shows them how to contribute. And, you know, there's rules you have to follow too in that process, but you can have a great time doing it. So thank you. With that, Councilmember Joseph, you want to make a motion?
Yes, I would. Let me get back there. I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2023 next in order, a resolution of the City Council of the City of American Canyon authorizing the city manager to enter into a lease agreement for the Little League complex at 280 Napa Junction Road and amending the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget.
I'll second.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamas?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
As a council member who had their youngest daughter scrape their knee on that asphalt, yes.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes, thank you very much. All right, we look forward to another great day out there, and don't forget to take me out to the ball game. Okay, very good. Thank you. So we're moving on with our agenda now. We don't have a public hearing. Item number 16. We'll give it a few minutes here for, I think, people wanting to exit.
Commission for that.
All right, very good. Public hearing, Paoli Watson Lane annexation project.
Good evening, Mayor and council members and members of the public. I'm Brent Cooper, Community Development Director, and pleased to present to you the Paoli Watson Lane annexation project. It's always exciting to come to the council meeting because it's towards the end of a very, very long research project that takes time. I think we kicked this off just a little more than 5 years ago in 2017. So, I mean, it really takes a while to really understand an area and come up with a plan for the future. Have a number of things I'm going to be talking to you about, and so just sort of hold on. We have a great team, very small and dedicated, working on this project, and I'm really pleased tonight we have Jesse Vorenberg from Rincon Consultants, and then also Leo Mina, also from Rincon, is available online as well, and they headed up the environmental impact report for the whole project. So really glad to have you there, and we'll be hearing from Jesse a little later in this presentation. Just kind of give you an idea in the northeast corner of the city, consistent with the city's sphere of influence, and a state law succinctly labeled Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Local Government Reorganization Act of 2000, which refer later on in the presentation as LAFCO law, just to keep it simple. A really important component of this project, it would be to extend Newell Drive from where it would terminate in Watson Ranch all the way up to Highway 29 at Green Island Road. This is a really important goal for the City Council and many of you who drive down the highways to provide an east side connector bypass for Highway 29. In order to refresh and update the city's plan, it includes a general plan amendment. There's pre-zoning, which is zoning areas outside the city limits. And then there's also a component of this where there's some rezoning within the city limits. The project and development contemplated here would include commercial, industrial, visitor-serving hotel, and then on Watson Lane and also by reference Paoli Loop, planned for residential estate. So just kind of mention it's in the northeast corner of the city. Here's an illustration of the boundary of the annexation area. It's pretty much flat. It has some grassy vegetation in the northern parts. It's bisected by the North Slough. And of course, we have residences on Watson Lane. The area on itself is embraced by the City of American Canyon on 3 sides. So in terms of LAFCO law, that's referred to as an island. Might look like a peninsula to some people, but in LAFCO terms, it's an island, which is a very important term for annexation law, because when a city surrounds an area, it's logical for it to be included in the city, because having nice even boundaries makes it simpler if there's calls for service, extending utilities, for people to understand who is their political representation. And so having an area that's surrounded by the city, it's just logical to be added into the city. And this area has been designated to be part of the city for many, many years, and this is sort of implementing that. It's also within our fire protection district. It's also in our water and sewer service area. So there's a lot of familiarity with this in terms of city-wide services. I'll have an arcing red line on the south part there. That's a zone designated by the Napa County Airport. It has its own land use plan, and that's called the D zone. And I'll talk more about that in the presentation. Up in the north in unincorporated Napa County, there's an industrial park planned up there, and there's an application with the Napa County staff and ultimately to the Board of Supervisors about that. We've heard from the good folks on Watson Lane. They'd prefer to be left alone, and can't necessarily blame them. In order to annex the northern part, which is where the industrial is planned, it's necessary to also annex the property in Watson Lane, or you would create an area that's wholly surrounded by the city of American Canyon. So it has to come along with the annexation if it's to move forward. Let's see, I'm going to scoop a little bit about Jesse's presentation. We have a couple of alternatives in the EIR related to Newell Drive. The project will extend it, as I mentioned, and so there is a railroad overcrossing planned as part of the project, and then it would also span the North Slough. One of the alternatives would have Newell Drive as an at-grade crossing, kind of like over here at American Canyon Road near Highway 29. So that's considered in the environmental impact report. And then there's another alternative related to Newell Drive where the idea would be that it wouldn't continue north beyond the railroad, and instead vehicles and traffic would route down Watson Lane. And on that alternative, we heard loud and clear from residents on Watson Lane that they don't support that alternative. It's also one staff isn't recommending. In terms of the overall build out of this area, there's some assumptions in there. Commercial is almost 500,000 square feet, industrial almost 690,000, almost 700,000 square feet, and then visitor serving hotel about 190,000 square feet. And these are estimates for purposes of evaluating the environmental impact for the project. I'd mentioned the have to refresh our land use planning for this area. As you see on the left here is our current general plan designations, and on the right's what's proposed. On the northern part, you'll see it's designated as agriculture, and under LAFCO law, cities may not annex agriculture land, except under very narrow circumstances. And so LAFCO law requires urban land uses in cities. If it's agriculture, well, then it just needs to stay outside the city limits. And so the proposal is to change it to from agriculture to industrial in the northern part. And that'll also help monetize the land to help construct Newell Drive. Because as we know, we don't have tax revenues just freely flowing in to build roads. Most roads are constructed and funded mostly in part through developer contributions through our entitlement process and impact fees. So that's one of the necessary components to help build extension of Newell. And then south of that, there's a proposal to convert it from agriculture to a residential state. And I have more to talk about that. Along with the general plan, right, paired with that is zoning. Much of the area today doesn't have pre-zoning. It just hasn't been done. And so there's a proposal on the right to zone the property consistent with the general plan. A couple of things that are notable. Over on the right-hand side there is a blue area. That's town center, and that actually was pre-zoned through a citizens initiative in 2008. And the property owner, the Gonzalez, are happy with that, and so that's just being left alone. On the left-hand side, there's light industrial. That's actually property that's in the city limits today, and that's the designation. And then we also have rezoning. So this little pink area here, that's around Paoli Loop. That's proposed to change from light industrial to the same designation on the east side, light industrial with a commercial overlay. And the reason that's changing is because that's all under single property ownership. So it's just logical that you just carry it over all the way to the western limits. So I'd mentioned Watson Lane pre-zoning. There's a lot of considerations that went in that. And so I have a list here, and it's not really in any particular order of priority, but just to give you a sense of the different things that need to be considered when looking at what might be an appropriate land use for this area. So first of all, the first one would be this would be designated by the city, and so the city has the authority to decide what's the right zoning. And as we all do things, of course, you want to get input from stakeholders. The residents, they love where they live, which is the slogan for our general plan. So without even annexing the area, we've achieved the general plan goal. And so they want to maintain their peaceful and unique neighborhood. The county general plan, in case you're wondering, designates this area as industrial, but in the meantime, they've designated it with a agriculture watershed zoning, which I'll talk some more about. LAFCO, which is the agency that will decide whether to approve this property be annexed into the city, it requires urban land uses, as I'd mentioned. So that's why the agriculture designation has to be changed. On the way before it gets to LAFCO, the proposal has to go to the Airport Land Use Commission, and then they make a determination whether the proposal is consistent with the Napa Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan. And that gets into that arcing red D zone. So they have a say in terms of whether this proposal is consistent with their plan. The Napa County Airport Land Use Commission staff, in their comment letter on the environmental impact report, suggested that the city should instead zone the property industrial or multifamily. And we'll talk some more about that. There's, by the way, never been any evidence that homes in this area has in any way hindered the operations or safety of the Napa County Airport. So just, I guess, something to keep in mind. We have these conflicting demands on us when looking at the different issues. In the D zone, the Napa Airport plan says housing is not permitted. And so you have a neighborhood here where housing existed before there was a D zone. So you have an inherent conflict. And as you can see, the county has reconciled that by zoning it agricultural watershed. But the city has a different set of objectives and criteria in which to look at this. So there's really no perfect solution here. We need to look at something else. Another thing to think about is the decisions that are made today for this area, it doesn't have to be forever. We have decisions that we can make, but our general plan and our zoning are living documents. And so circumstances can change. There can be new energy, new partners, new reasons, all kinds of things that might someday decide that maybe a different solution makes sense. So, if you want to maybe buckle up, we have 6 land use alternatives that we considered for this area, and that kind of talks about all these different issues. But before I do that, I just wanted to give you just sort of a bird's eye view of the Watson Lane neighborhood. It's not a particularly large area. As you can see, the people who live there are obviously living a very nice life. They have plenty of room in which to pursue their interests. I've personally met all of the residents here over the years. Everyone's lovely people that have lived here, many for generations. Maybe you have multi-generational families. Just a really lovely area. There are 13 parcels. I marked some of them off, and you can see that there are different parcel sizes. The largest is 10.4 acres. The smallest is 1 acre. But there's a range of them. So this just kind of gives you a sense of what the neighborhood is like. Another feature that's really important to the character is Watson Lane. Very narrow road, no sidewalks, very country. Look at the country, right? If you think of a country road, this comes to mind. So just looking at the Watson Lane as you travel from Paleoloop towards the east, you can just see that it's just a nice narrow road. And then you turn around and look back towards Paleoloop, you can kind of get a sense of what it is. So the first alternative that we looked at takes into consideration what the county staff suggested with industrial. So if you were to introduce industrial to this neighborhood, you would introduce an incompatible use to a unique and peaceful neighborhood. So that's kind of what would happen. Industrial uses, they require utility upgrades. And if you think about trucks and traffic, it would require widening Watson Lane. Watson Lane is not built to handle industrial traffic, so the depth would need to be changed, that would need to be widened. And that whole concept didn't receive any support from the residents. And then if you think about it too, they're all different property owners. And so if it were to go towards industrial, you might get a little project here and a little project there. I mean, no single project or maybe in combination could really pay the cost to widen and improve Watson Lane, even if it was supported. So this whole idea, if this is one for the future, is something that needs an awful lot of consideration and thorough consensus among the people who live there. So we kind of deem that one infeasible. The second one is also one suggested by county staff, and that's for multifamily high-density housing. Has many of the same detriments, I would say, as the first one. It would also require expensive upgrades to utilities and Watson Lane widening, not supported. No single project could pay for that. And furthermore, in the D zone, residential uses are not permitted. So if that were to pursue that with perhaps the idea, well, we'll do it into help with the airport land use compatibility, well, it's not compatible, it's not consistent with the plan. So it doesn't really get us any mileage there either. So that one is also infeasible. The third one is, has kind of come in with just conversations. Why don't you just do what the county does? And so that seems to be, works now with the residents that are there as far as we know. It would also probably receive a consistent determination from the Airport Land Use Commission because that is what's been done for many years. But then again, we may run afoul of LAFCO law. LAFCO law requires urban land uses, and the agricultural watershed zoning says you can build one home on 10 acres. So one home on 10 acres is not urban. So that wouldn't succeed in achieving our goal to annex the property with an ag watershed. There's also, in terms of an equity fairness issue, within Napa County, there's all kinds of land that's ag watershed, and this is just one little part of it, but there isn't any other ag watershed land in American Canyon, so this would be a unique neighborhood with that zoning. And so when you think about zoning, you want to be sure that everybody gets to, we'll use the term, enjoy the property equally among the neighbors. And so if we were to take the county zoning, well, one neighbor complies, but everyone else has more than that. And so that's not really fair for the ones that have the 1 acre lot. If the others have larger lots, they don't get to enjoy the same property rights. So there's an inherent problem with that in terms of the city adopting that zoning. So that one kind of also got it infeasible. Another one that's come up is, how about we just call it special study? That would suggest that maybe the city will come up with a plan later. However, zoning requires development standards. We do have special study zoning in the city on the eastern side, and that was designated by an initiative in 2008, and it has very, very low development intensity. It was outside the city before, so that had a different situation. But if the city establishes ag watershed standards, well then that isn't urban for LAFCO, so that would be a problem. If it were to tilt towards more of a residential, well then the Airport Land Use Commission probably would not give us a compatibility determination. So it doesn't really do anything for us by calling it special study. So that option here was also infeasible. There's 6, so we're almost through. This one here is what's described in the environmental impact report, and it's designating the property residential estate. 1 unit per acre is zoning that you will find in cities. So it's probably the least dense you could designate something and still call yourself urban. So that probably gets us through the LAFCO issues. It's also probably the closest land use that we could designate that would maintain the compatibility of the neighborhood that residents love. It also would provide everybody who lives here the same property rights. So there's equitable development rights among property owners. And then it's also close to current conditions, but it's residential. So it may get incompatibility determination from the Airport Land Use Commission. So I've just labeled this one as resident friendly because it's as close as we can get for the city to be able to zone this something and still keep the neighborhood as much as it is today. We talked about this at the Planning Commission, our final option, and that is residential estate plus. And so this one keeps the residential estate designation, but it adds the Airport Land Use Commission when there is a residential subdivision. So in talking to county staff, the concern that the Airport Land Use Commission has is more residence uses in this area. And so this would enable the Airport Land Use Commission to be able to review it and tell us what they think. The commission, in its way it functions, it issues a compatible or incompatible determination. So it's possible that if there was a subdivision, and we don't know that there will be, but if there is, and it goes to Airport Land Use Commission, it's possible they may give it an incompatible determination. When that happens, the City Council has the discretion to either agree with the Airport Land Use Commission, or they can overrule it by a 4/5 vote. So it gives the Airport Land Use Commission a say, it lets the council hear what they have to say, and then the council has the authority to make up its mind. So this is, to me, is as much of a compromise, I think, that we can do and still be true to, I think, what's important in the area, and still fulfill LAFCO law and acknowledge Airport Land Use Commission's role in protecting the airport. So I call this one the balance plan. So this sort of plus comes with a little bit of fine print, and here it is. And it's fairly simple. Proposed subdivisions, and this would be in the zoning, it's a special development requirement. Proposed subdivisions that create additional residential lots in the residential estate zoning district on Watson Lane and Paoli Loop shall be subject to review by the Napa Airport Land Use Commission prior to City Council action, or City of American Canyon action. So hopefully that's fairly straightforward. We also added in here some other things that maybe are kind of obvious, but just so that we're clear. The first one would be there are certain forms of subdivisions that don't actually create lots. One example might be to move lots around. So there could be residential, it's a subdivision action, but you're moving lots around. So that doesn't count because we're not creating new lots. So that wouldn't be subject to this provision. Another one would be if there are properties on Watson Lane or Paoli without residential estate zoning. We actually already have some today that was pre-zoned town center. But there could very well be a zone change in the future that changes these. So let's contemplate that and just acknowledge that if it no longer has residential estate zoning, then this doesn't count. The state is constantly, for the next one, coming up with new laws every year to supersede local authority. I've just listed one here, SB 9, and those are subdivisions that the city may not approve if the applicant meets certain technical standards. And so we can't disobey state law. It's not a good idea. And so anything that's related to subdivisions or other types of housing that the state has deemed not subject to local authority, we're not going to mess with that. And then finally, the Napa Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan itself is under review by Napa County, and there are potentially changes in the D zone. And so thinking ahead, it's possible that there may be properties on Watson Lane or Paoli Loop that are no longer located in Zone D. So we just need to think about that. It's not true today, but it might be in the future. This was, we talked about this at length with the Planning Commission, October 26, and this is the option that the Planning Commission recommended. And I think I've talked myself out, and I'm ready to pass it on to Jesse, and he's going to walk you through the environmental impact report, unless the council has any questions at this point. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Garcia, Vice Mayor Washington, council members, everyone else. I'm Jesse Vorenberg. I'm an environmental planner and project manager with Rincon Consultants. We've been working with the city on the environmental review under CEQA for over a year now. So CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, applies to all projects that require discretionary approval from a local lead agency like the City of American Canyon. Early on in the process, the city decided that a programmatic EIR was the necessary level of environmental impact of environmental review to evaluate the environmental impact of the Watson Lane annexation project. So under a program EIR, we're looking at a broad series of actions, not a specific development project. CEQA generally allows for public disclosure of impacts and an input process. The general goal of a program EIR like the one done for this project is to minimize, reduce, or avoid environmental impacts of a worst case scenario. I say worst case scenario because we're looking at what could possibly be built on the annexation area, as Brent mentioned, had that build out potential, which is a conservative estimate of what could possibly be built to determine the environmental impacts. And then the CEQA process also includes adopting a mitigation monitoring and reporting program to make sure that the impacts are actually reduced. So you can see the CEQA process is quite lengthy. We're all the way at the end of the process with the City Council hearing on the EIR and project itself. The environmental analysis covers quite a few topical areas ranging from aesthetics to wildfire and everything on the screen here. EIRs are generally structured starting with an introduction and summary of the project and the impacts found throughout the EIR. Then there's a more robust project description where you go through the project quite detailed to make sure that all aspects are accounted for in the analysis. Then there's the real meat of the EIR where you're looking at the environmental setting, regulatory framework, and then potential impacts for each topical area, as well as mitigation measures if necessary. Then there's an alternative section, as well as a discussion of some other impacts. As I mentioned earlier, this is a program EIR, which means that we look at a series of connected actions that will govern future activities and decisions rather than a specific development project or property. A few quick milestones for this CEQA process started back in September 2022 with the notice of preparation and a scoping meeting. When the notice of preparation public period closed in October 2022, we started preparing the draft EIR, which was finished in March 2023 and issued for public review. That public review period closed in April of 2023. Upon which we received comment letters, which were considered by the city, and some revisions were made to the draft EIR. Those revisions were published in the final EIR last month, and those changes were heard by the Planning Commission a couple weeks ago, and now here we are, November 7th, for the City Council hearing. Some quick environmental context for this project. This is the 6th EIR prepared for this portion of the City of American Canyon within the past 8 years, along with the other 5 on the screen. These past EIRs have identified air quality, greenhouse gas emissions, biological resources, airport land use compatibility, traffic, and water supply as significant impacts. A quick summary of the draft EIR. We analyzed all topical issue areas except for mineral resources and schools. For the issue areas that we did analyze in detail, we set forth 34 mitigation measures to reduce potentially significant impacts for all the topical areas on the screen. The findings of the draft EIR were that there were no significant and unavoidable impacts. That's a bit of CEQA jargon, which means that all impacts were mitigated with mitigation measures to a less than significant level or did not require mitigation to begin with. And then I won't get into the 4 project alternatives since Brent has already talked about those, but as documented in the findings, which are attached to the final EIR, city is not recommending the adoption of any of these alternatives. And then for the final EIR, we received 8 comment letters, which are found in section 2, to which we responded to all of the comments. And then we did make some minor revisions to the draft EIR in section 3, made some edits to the biological resources mitigation after consulting a letter from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. We also made edits to a mitigation measure for greenhouse gas emissions to strengthen requirements regarding electrification of industrial and commercial equipment. And then the VMT threshold used in the transportation discussion was lowered to be 19% below existing conditions, which is more stringent than the 15% below existing conditions that was used in the draft EIR. Overall, these revisions did not result in any significant new information or new impacts, and recirculation is not required. And then the final part of the secret process is the mitigation, monitoring, and reporting program. So upon certification of the final EIR, the city would also adopt this MMRP. The MMRP ensures that the mitigation measures in the EIR are implemented in a timely fashion and in accordance with the terms of project approval. MMRP is quite detailed in terms of the action required, the timing, monitoring frequency, and responsible agency to implement each mitigation measure. That's it for the secret process. I'll kick it back to Brent. Thank you. Great.
So we're really at the end of our presentation. Just wanted to give you kind of what are the next steps. Tonight, this is staff has presented resolutions and an ordinance to consider certifying the final environmental impact report, amending the general plan, and then introducing the first reading for the pre-zoning and rezoning. And then after that, the next step is for the project to go to the Airport Land Use Commission for determination. And then following that, we'll have the City Council second reading for the ordinance. And then after that, we bring the project to LAFCO, Local Agency Formation Commission. It makes it, has its own process to evaluate the project. Hopefully, they approve the annexation. And then once it's in the city, there'll be subsequent discretionary projects that will develop in accordance with that sort of plan that we talked about earlier with the land plan and the limits on development and mitigation measures and all the like. But there's subsequent discretionary processes once it's within the city. And so that kind of concludes our presentation. Glad to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions from council at this time?
I want to add it.
I have one. Getting back to the rural estate zoning or RE plus, I guess.
I don't have.
Do we have any conversations with the Airport Land Use Commission as far as, do they think that's a reasonable compromise that they can live with, or do we still run the risk of them saying this is incompatible?
The only way to get a decision from the board is to go with a project, but that was an idea that we talked to with staff at the county.
Or it was?
Mm-hmm. So that was an idea that was floated with county staff.
Oh, okay.
So an informal conversation, we kind of explained to them, here's all the issues, here's what you suggested, here are kind of the things that we need to consider, here are maybe some other ideas, and so it was floated. But by no means would I have considered that to be a path to a necessary yes.
Okay. And then the follow-up is, so we send it to the ALUC. If they say this is incompatible, do we have the same right of a 4/5 override as we would for a specific entitlement?
Yes, the council does.
Okay. And then just to kind of clarify your point about the state and SB 9, theoretically, if somebody wanted to split their property under SB 9, they more or less have the right to do it. Doesn't matter whether the airport likes it or not, or we like it or not, or even your neighbors like it or not. So that's an example of what state law can do to, or has done to us. So even though I don't think any of the neighbors want to add anything and more or less just want to be left alone, and that's our intent as well, the state does have the right to make life miserable for everyone, just as an editorial comment. So, okay, well, thank you very much for the clarifications.
Mr. Hawley?
Actually, City Attorney.
Oh, Mr. Ross?
Mayor and Council, I'd like to supplement the staff presentation by recognizing that late this afternoon, the city did receive a subsequent communication consisting of 4 pages from the City of Vallejo, signed by Chief Assistant City Attorney Randy Reisner. It incorporates as a reference its previous April 28th, 2023 comment on the draft environmental impact report. Staff and special counsel from the SOMAC firm have reviewed the communication. It raises no new issues that aren't properly responded to in Section 3 in the summary of the environmental review. As already indicated, it seems to be that the theme of Vallejo is that if there's no change in the FEIR as a result of their comment, the subsequent comment, that somehow that creates an inadequacy under CEQA. That's not the case law, and that's not the issue. I think the preeminent issue is that the FEIR, as proposed and recommended by the Planning Commission, addresses all the issues raised in this letter. I think staff would agree that what you're pragmatically faced with is a holistic examination of the water issue. It's ironic that this subsequent comment by Vallejo seems to overlook their own urban water management plan, which is an inherent part of the environmental analysis, which concedes the litigation or the contractual obligation that they comment again on, and in fact in a way that is inconsistent with their own comment presently, and has been analyzed to be more accommodating than the City of American Canyon urban water management plan on this issue. In any event, we would stress that the issues have been dealt with before, and I think the common sense component of the DEIR and FEIR that all development faces and the analysis reiterates to show compliance with CEQA on the water impact issue is the fact that any development would have to meet the zero water footprint requirements that are present in the city. That's something that's unique, not unique to other land use jurisdictions, but it's certainly that's something that's unique and has been well known to the city of Vallejo for a long time. So I think that would be our comment. I don't think it requires any further action. We want to acknowledge its receipt with the analysis that I've summarized briefly by staff, the consultant, special counsel, and our office. Thank you.
Other council comment?
No, sir.
Nope. Ready for public comment?
Yes.
Okay, public comment on this matter is now open. Anybody from
Mayor
the
Gard-
audience wants to speak, please come to the podium.
I have some speaker cards. Les Lawson. Oh. Changed his mind. Okay. Ladina Ford.
Hi, my name is Ladina Ford. My parents have a property on Watson Lane, and it's just a general question, and I don't know why I didn't think of it before. I'm sure it's a very simple answer. But the town center pre-zoning, or is part of that going to be annexed? Is this part of the pre-annexation? Is that already part of the city on the other side of Watson Lane, on the other side of the railroad tracks?
Let's see.
I'll bring up a picture.
You just scroll up. So there is a little corner to the east of the railroad that's labeled Town Center. That's in the county today, and it was pre-zoned Town Center through a citizens initiative in 2008.
And it's already town center on the other side of the railroad track? That's
Correct.
already- Okay. So I was just curious what types of uses are allowed in town center? I tried to look it up real quick before I came up here and I couldn't find it. Just for purposes of, potential future use of Watson Lane, since there is town center zoning, it already exists there, but I was just curious what type of uses are allowed in that.
Town Center is the same zoning as Watson Ranch, and so it allows a variety of homes and commercial uses. It's a very mixed-use, broad-based zoning.
Take care of your question? All right.
Charles Lemon.
Charles Lemon, 193 Watson Lane. Been attending these meetings for 13 years. It's good to see this kind of coming to a conclusion. I do want to point out that, through all these years, the focus here has been the goal of providing an alternate path for locals, never outside of locals, but always locals, to have a way around the traffic on Highway 29. And we're going to achieve that with this project. But Watson Lane, people who live there today, we currently deal with the noise from Highway 29. Basically we have open space on 3 sides. Well, there's a rail, but they only kind of go by once in a while. So all I want to point out to the people here is that we're helping the city, we're helping the community, we're taking one for the team, if you would. We're getting a hotel to the north of us, possibly, in the commercial overlay. That was mentioned at the last meeting. We're going to have traffic around us all the time. Highway 29 is, when it was blocked the other day with rain, all of a sudden Paoli Loop is just bumper to bumper, which we'd never seen before. So life in Watson Lane is changing. So when you've gone to these meetings in the past, and the Planning Commission even mentioned it, it sure would be nice if we could modernize the sewer system in our neighborhood. So I don't expect a decision here at this meeting. I just want to point out that in the future, when we're planning for upgrades, all the residents have upgraded everything in their home to modern standards, except we have grandfathered septic systems, which are built in the 30s. I'd love to see the city finish that stub that's pointing up our street. They were able to get a water line up our street, which I heard was to support the Watson Ranch project. It'd be nice if we could get a sewer line up the street someday. And I understand there's expenses for that, so perhaps something that we could put on our tax rolls over the years. I'm just throwing out options, but I just want to remind everybody that we're taking one for the team. We'd like the city to think about us in the future, specifically on a sewer line. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Yvonne Baginski.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council and members of the public. My name is Yvonne Baginski, and I'm a resident of Napa County. I wanted to address several aspects of this project. 6 years ago, I pulled out my front lawn and I totally replanted it in natives. And when I was doing that, my neighbors were very upset because my neighbors all had green lawns that they kept blown off, the leaves blown off, and they've kept them very neat and trim, and there were no animals on any of my neighbors' lawns. There were no butterflies, no bees, no bugs, no insects, nothing. And 6 years later, this year, I have a front yard that is full of salamanders and newts and butterflies and birds and all kinds of things. And I can look out over my neighbors' lawns and there is nothing on their lawns. Those animals that are on my property do not cross the street, do not go next door. And every Friday, all the landscapers come and they blow the leaves and they cut the grass. And the rest of the week, my neighbors water the grass to get it long enough to be cut again on Friday. What I'm saying is that I can't change my neighbor's mind. I can't change my neighbor's mind, even though they can look out at my property and see the difference between my property and theirs. And what I'm here today to ask you all is to take a look at this zone that you have set up as an industrial zone and realize that you're losing your green belt. You're losing your upper northern part of this area in the green belt. Like Mr. Cooper said, there is a consideration of 300 acres to the north that is already an application before the county to become an industrial zone. If you continue to industrialize this entire area, you're going to lose all those animals and all that wildlife, and the value of that is indisputable. I'm watching you, I'm following all the developments, and I'm saying, isn't there some sort of green belt or wildlife conservation areas that you can assure? Because that 300-acre mitigation that has been offered by the developers as open space is going to be considered for something that requires public access. And what I'm asking for is to take a look at areas where the wildlife can live without public access, because you know that animals and peoples don't always do so well together. I couldn't change the mind of any of my neighbors, and I know how hard it is to change your minds, but I'm asking you for this consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Terrence McGrath.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, Councilmember Oro in Chicago, if he's still up. I'm Terrence McGrath. I'm here several different roles. One, I'm the owner of the Paoli property. I'm also the owner developer of Watson Ranch in the Ruins. I'm also here as a historian this evening. Just to set the stage, when I started this process, I had hair. I didn't need glasses. And I didn't wake up in the morning wondering how I hurt myself when I went to sleep. So let me just set the stage here on this property. So this process started almost 20 years ago with the urban limit line. And I was one of the original architects on the urban limit line, and along with Senator Bill Dodd, and I believe Mayor Garcia and City Council Mark Joseph were part of that process. And in late 06, 07, we started a 2x2 process between the city and county. And the purpose behind it was really to settle land use issues that had gone on between city and county for years, as well as create a bypass or a parallel route to SR 29. And so over a period of 18 months, two council members, two supervisors met, and out of it came a tri-party agreement, the county, the city, and myself. And my particular role in this was to qualify an urban limit line initiative, a ballot initiative, which I did. I qualified it in early 2008 with a substantial percentage of registered voters in American Canyon. And that came in front of the council in August of 2008 and was adopted ministerially. And it really set the context for land use in the city now, again, almost 20 years later. And the part of the urban limit line that is confusing is it's a vote of the people. It expires January 1st of 2030. If you want to change the urban limit line, it has to be a subsequent vote of the people. And so the key piece here is these lands are inside of this. And these lands were all part of creating this parallel route to 29. So then what is my personal interest here? Because I always like to identify why I'm standing here. So clearly I'm the largest property owner of this proposed annexation area. And do I benefit personally if this is successful? Absolutely, there's no doubt about it. That said, are my self-interests misaligned to this town, to the city, to the county, to the region? Absolutely not. Frankly, I bought this property in January of 2022, 18 months ago, with the purpose of making sure that Newell Drive could be completed for, obviously, Watson Ranch, but also for this city. And that's what this is all about. This is truly about circulation. It clearly benefits the whole wine country. There is no doubt about this. And it also, but more importantly, it gives the city sovereignty. It gives the city the ability to control what happens every day in this town. And from my perspective, this is the most important agenda item, not only in this city, but also in this county. It's frankly more important than what's going on right now at 12 and 121. So why am I here tonight? One, don't get distracted. There's other things going outside this urban limit line with other properties. Those are important. There's a time and place for them. Now's not the time and place for them. And I also think it sends a bad message to the rest of the world if you start trying to grab these other properties at the same time you're trying to finish something that was started 20 years ago. Second, don't let the city of Vallejo's opposition deter you here. Honestly, they're simply trying to be bullies. And frankly, they're also probably somewhat upset because I sued them, because we have a water agreement with them from 1993 where their 3 water lines go across the entire Watson Ranch property. And for the benefit of having that easement across the property that I own today, they're supposed to provide us with water. They do not want to do that. And so, you know, if they want to die on this hill, that's up to them. But don't let them deter you. The final piece of this is, I think it's time for the city, with this sovereignty, it allows you control over police, fire, EMS. 2 weeks ago, Planning Commission, I couldn't get here because Highway 29, a section of it was closed. That's not good for anybody, let alone parents trying to get across town in the mornings and afternoon to drop their kids off or pick their kids up at high school or middle school or a K-5. And so again, this gives you sovereignty over an issue that is not your issue. This is an Up Valley issue. This is a wine issue. This is a hospitality issue. This is a labor force issue that has to come north every single day to provide labor to these businesses. And the reason they're having to come through your town is because there's not housing that they can afford north of this city. So this is really important, creating your sovereignty. You then can decide what you want to do with other land use issues, with other developments past this point. The final thing here is, I think it's time to make sure the county, MTC, NVTA participate in this. Because if we're successful in getting this grade crossing at the UPRR Railroad where Newell Drive goes at it, and we're successful in getting that at an at-grade crossing, this is one of the easiest lifts in the world for 2 miles of roadway that's 1 lane in each direction. I just built 4 miles of that kind of roadway across the street over the last 2 years. This is not an expensive endeavor. So it's time to get the other people that are going to benefit. And frankly, it's probably about 80-20 or 15-85 in terms of what the city participates or contributes to the traffic here versus what the rest of the county contributes to the traffic. Anyway, thank you. I appreciate you. This is a wonderful city to do business in, and there's not a day that I'm not thankful for the citizens of the city, for Beth and Fran and everybody else has supported us, especially over the last 5 years. And it's such a joy to be here in a city that actually shows up every single day. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Is there another speaker?
I have no other speaker cards.
Anyone online?
There are no hands raised online.
Okay, very good. We'll close public comment, return to council. Further discussion, desired action. So we were presented with 6 possibilities. We're here to consider 3 city council actions as I read the agenda. So, discussion. Councilmember Joseph.
Yes, well, I appreciate the whole dialogue, and I guess I just want to make a few points. We haven't discussed a lot of the mitigations in any level of detail. Our city attorney talked about water issues, and I do think that we can handle that. There's been other discussions about greenhouse gases, and I think it's important to note that in the environmental impact report and the monitoring requirements that, and correct me if I've misstated it, that we're saying the standard that any development has to meet will be consistent generally with the state's Cal Green Tier 2 standards. There will be no, this is an all-electric project, so there won't be any natural gas. There's certain percentages of vehicles that have to be zero-emission vehicles. I think 15% for construction and 25% for, once everything's constructed. And as I mentioned to the city manager, hopefully over time, those thresholds won't be ambitious. They'll be, probably the base. So somehow as we look at specific entitlements, I'm hoping we'll evaluate what the right appropriate standards are. And if it's at least 15 or 25% now, maybe in a year or two when somebody comes forward with an entitlement, it might be 25 or 30 or 40. So I think it's important that what we're hardwiring into this document are standards that frankly give the mayor and I incredible bragging rights at the next Climate Action Committee when we say, here's another thing that we approved that's all electric that meets high standards. So, could it be more than the state standards? Sure, but once you go past the state standards, you're kind of on your own ground. And we have no solid foundation to justify it. So I think sticking with the Tier 2 level is as high as we can go and still say there's a rational basis. So I think that's pretty good. Now, on the habitat issues, I think we've addressed it adequately. Above and beyond that, I would like to say I would love to see the city explore some opportunities to look at some of the lands around our perimeter and figure out ways that we can acquire it. The reality is nobody's going to sell their land for cheap. So there's going to have to be a funding mechanism. But I certainly would be sympathetic to exploring ways in which we can secure lands on the perimeter, because I do like the idea of having a green belt. And many years ago, we had a somewhat of a green belt. That was the wetlands and Newell open space, Green Island Vineyard when it really was a vineyard, even further to the north with the vineyards that used to be Hess. So I am sympathetic to a green belt, have always been and done what I could to help create it. And so today I think it's something worth considering as well. Maybe not in the context of this specific action, but maybe in the context of all the other things we're doing and exploring. So bottom line is I am sympathetic to those open space issues and hope we can build that into a solution, either as part of our general plan or maybe as a result of these actions tonight. Be that as it may, I think this is a reasonable annexation. It's been anticipated back in 2008. So this is kind of the last piece to the puzzle. The fact that it will facilitate the Newell extension, that in and of itself would make me stop and say yes. So yes, there's an issue. There's always going to be issues with anything, but on balance, getting the Newell extension completed is such an important element that I think that ought to be top of mind when we're looking at this. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Other comment from council?
You may want to ask Councilman Oral.
Yeah.
Can't tell. I don't have anything.
Councilman Oral, comment?
Yeah, I there's probably a lot to comment on, but I think we've talked about it ad nauseum. But I do want to hit on something that the last speaker talked about, and something that I've been talking about, focusing on what we can control. I talked about this in 2018 during my campaign, that we need to build parallel roads. This is that big part here of bringing this into the city so that we can control an outlet or an east side connector, a parallel road, because Caltrans isn't helping us in any way to do something about traffic mitigation. Up Valley isn't doing anything in South County to help us with mitigation down here in American Canyon. So this is really what it's about to me. The fact that staff took a long time to consider all alternatives, as well as work with residents and listen to them. And I appreciate Mr. Lemon's conversation in terms of taking one for the team. I think he understands what that is, and I think all the residents do. And I'm hoping that we can return a favor for them as we move along in this process. I am disappointed in the leadership in Vallejo for not understanding what this is about and meddling in affairs that are really distant from them. I've never seen this kind of action before, and it's quite disappointing across the matter. I've spoken to a couple of council members there, and they're not even aware of the depth of this water issue. So with that said, I'm looking forward to this vote. I really don't want to read it. It's pretty hard because I'm on a Zoom call. So I'm hoping somebody else takes the action reading it all. But I will vote in favor of it. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Albanamos.
Mayor, I'm ready to take Councilmember Oro's cue and make the motion.
Okay. We have a number of
It looks like 2 resolutions and an ordinance.
an ordinance.
So I'll start with resolution number 2023, next in order, a resolution of the City Council of the City of American Canyon. 1, certifying the Paoli-Watson Lane Annexation Project Final Environmental Impact Report. 2, adopting a CEQA finding of fact. And 3, adopting a mitigation monitoring and reporting program approximately 83 acres located within the City of American Canyon sphere of influence in unincorporated Napa County and approximately 3 acres in the City of American Canyon east of SR 29.
I'll second. Motion second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamas?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, next one is,
Would you like me to do that as well?
who'd ever like to make it?
Resolution, I'd like to move resolution number 2023, next in order, a resolution of the City Council of the City of American Canyon approving a general plan amendment for the Paoli-Watson Lane Annexation Project for land currently designated agricultural to industrial and residential estate, approximately 83 acres located within the City of American Canyon sphere of influence in unincorporated Napa County, east of SR 29 and Paoli Loop Road.
I'll second that too. Motion second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamas?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes. Thank you. And I can do it. You want me to do it? We have an ordinance?
Yeah, I'll do the third. I'd like to make a motion to accept ordinance number 2023, next in order, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of American Canyon adopting pre-zoning from agricultural to Paoli Light Industrial, Paoli Commercial Overlay District, and residential estates for the Paoli-Watson Lane Annexation Project. Approximately 83 acres located within the City of American Canyon sphere of influence in unincorporated Napa County, east of the State Route 29 and Paoli Loop Road, and then an approximate 3 acres rezoning within the City of American Canyon east of SR 29 from light industrial to Paoli Light Industrial within or with a Paoli Commercial Overlay District, and the addition of American Canyon Municipal Code Section 19.10.050F. Special development requirements for the residential estates zoning district on Watson Lane and Paoli Loop Road.
I'll second. Had to get my 2 cents in.
That was a long one, Vice Mayor.
Council-
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamos?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes, and let's get this project moving forward.
Oh.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. We did have a request from Mr. Lemon about converting from septic to plugging into our sewer system. Is that something that we need to take up as a future agenda item, or how can we address that?
So it seems to me to be a future matter.
Yeah, so none of that can be handled until annexation is complete, and so we need to get through that process.
Yeah.
From there, developing a plan and a funding mechanism from the property owners is going to take something in probably a property owner CFD or something like that. So you're going to have some continued engagement with the property owners to figure out a funding mechanism. So it's already on our radar, and then we've been in discussions with the property owners, and it's kind of what we told them is that is one of the benefits of being in the city is you get access to utilities. So once the annexation process is completed, then we can start the process of the utilities and how it happens.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. Well, very good work this evening, Council. We're now on to management and staff oral reports.
Believe it or not, Mayor, we don't have any of. Ally has the night off. She's got a triple header going this week between Citizens Academy and Veterans Day and PCS and things. So she has the night off, and I think the rest of us are good. So no updates.
We'll save it for the next time. Okay, Mayor, Council comments, committee reports, and then we'll take up future agenda items. Councilmember Joseph, anything to add here?
No, but I do have some future items when we
Okay,
get
we'll
around
take
to
those
it.
up later. Councilmember Oro, anything to add to your report?
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that Parks Director Ikeda, she did I don't know what you call four, but she's a four whammy person because she was out with me on Saturday on the Ridge Trail, laying rocks up on the Newell Preserve, and that was a great event. We had two high schoolers, 6 dedicated staff, and 3 people from Sacramento actually that volunteered from the Ridge Trail. Would love to see more of American Canyon citizens involved. I know we're busy weekends and we're volunteering in different ways, but if we can figure out a way to get more people involved on that day, particularly on that piece of property that is probably needs more work in terms of open space. And I love the fact that the work that we did this weekend and the promise of what is going to be happening up there. Really excited about that, but we still need volunteers for it. It was a great event. I was super sore the next day, but we got probably a good half mile done of rocks laid out on that. And I think we're going to make our way around the loop, so should be good.
Very good, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, in my defense, I was boxing food for the pantry at the same time, so that's why I wasn't there.
Well, we all have busy weekends at that, don't we? We got here, Councilmember Albadamos, anything to report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Talking about busy weekends, I think we spent quite a bit of time doing several different trick-or-treating activities for Halloween. I actually took Farah with me to the Halloween party at the Adult Activity Center. She had a blast. At each of these events, you guys, I used to go, not too long ago, I used to go to all of these events because it was a social engagement for me. I got to talk to people who I haven't seen in a while. I got to hang out. I got to do stuff. Now I'm chasing after her and she never wants to leave. We also went to the Spirit Horse trick-or-treating event, Halloween event, which was a ton of fun. She got really close to a pony and a donkey. She'd get close and she'd like touch it and run. It was so cute. There was also the trick-or-treating at the plaza and then the open house at the Boys and Girls Club, which was super well attended. If you guys haven't been, it was packed. They had lunch, they had hot dogs and candy and chips and food for everybody. They had jump houses, they had face painting, they had pumpkin painting. It was incredible. So I just wanted to give a shout out and a plug to all of the various entities hosting Halloween festivities this year. It was a blast. And then trick-or-treating in my neighborhood was off the hook this year. Like, we were walking in the streets, and it was not even a street because there were so many people. It was insane, but it was such a great Halloween. I hope you guys all had a safe and happy Halloween, too. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Vice Mayor Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing really to add, but just a reminder for Veterans Day this Saturday. I think Stacy, Cindy, Beth, and Rich Peterson did an excellent job, coordinated over a year worth of coordinating, and the speaker, Del Pratt, is a good speaker. So looking forward to seeing everybody there supporting our veterans. Thank you. Nothing else.
Very good. Your lights on?
Yeah, I forgot to mention that we do have the League Leaders Conference coming up in Carlsbad on November 28th and 29th, so I will not see you guys again before then. Just letting you know I'm flying out to Carlsbad for a 24-hour period to participate in the League Leaders Workshop.
Very good. Well, we look forward to your report when you get back. Let me see. I want to pull up mine here. We already had, I think Councilmember Joseph covered MBTA. We had coffee with the cops at Starbucks earlier. Always good to have that visibility of our police officers in the community out there, and an opportunity to just stop by and say hi, which a number of people did. Had an opportunity with, I've been on the board with Community Action Napa Valley. That's now the food bank for all the counties. So for I think some 25 years or more. Anyway, had an opportunity, an appreciation lunch, and had an opportunity to have a conversation with the director of the pantry about needs in American Canyon. And there are certain areas in the city, they're getting ready to move a lot of their operations over here to Kaiser Road because they purchased a building. So meaning the food distribution can be handled here in American Canyon a little more expediently and a little more efficiently, probably coordinating with, as they do with the Kiwanis Club for food distribution monthly. So looks like there's some interest here in the old Napa Junction School as a point of contact. So that would be very helpful indeed. See, we had Chamber of Commerce at the grid meeting at Mazzettas. That was very helpful. Keep it very concise into what issues they're facing there on the Green Island Road. Certainly the security cameras are been quite an enhancement, the license readers, and that's helped a lot of opportunity. They, if I can remember correctly from Chief Greenberg, there's been individuals detained. The issue was catalytic converter theft from one of the yards. So that's been very helpful in terms of helping local businesses there. Let's see what else we got here. AC CERT had a mass casualty training. With the, it was Mary Estes, City of Napa, and American Canyon. It's a learning curve. What you kind of do is you mock deploying teams out from a center. And like I always say, there's no really bad result. There's things to refine. So you do debriefing afterwards and find out how you can fine tune that one. See then, food distribution. Had the American Canyon Community Parks Foundation also had a board meeting with regard to a lot of it's around the ecology center that's coming forward, and plans on working with the city. This is kind of a point where what part can the board occupy, what the city plans. Certainly I know we have some issues with trying to relocate corporate yard, so that's going to take a while, but everybody's just patiently working forward to it. The Community Parks Foundation does a rather incredible job with the mobile classroom in terms of educating youth and young people and getting people to participate in it. I mentioned it to the Janelle Selick, our executive director, and myself was connected with Andrea Rogers of the North Bay Watershed Association about a conference that they're doing, and looking forward to maybe being a part of that. So that's going to be helpful. And we had a, is that one? Well, we covered the Climate Action Committee. That was a very good one also. Had the Noche de Catrinas. It's, if you're familiar with Dia de los Muertos, it's a very Mexican type celebration. And it was a fundraiser for the Napa Fair Housing. So this is the second year. Seems to be growing. A lot more participation in it. And I think they managed to raise a goodly amount of money on that. And here we are, Halloween. We had the event there at the Canyon Plaza. Bonita Polke had their ribbon cutting opening. Well, you couldn't ask for a more perfect day because you have a huge crowd outside. And it looks like it's going to be quite an asset to American Canyon. A lot of family very interested in that. And I think I'll just wrap up my report with that. Thank you. Okay, future agenda items.
Mr. Mayor, I have two of them. One, at the last Climate Action Committee, we adopted I guess you could call it a model REACH code that is designed to encourage an all-electric development, not unlike what we just approved tonight for the Paoli annexation. But we were tasked with bringing it back to our respective jurisdictions and having it brought forward to the council for consideration. So I'm formally asking you to do that. And my understanding is the Climate Action Committee staff is supposed to be finalizing that template to get it ready. We made some additional comments, one of which was including what we call mandatory options, just as clever, such as requiring a battery backup, but not part of the project, just as an option that the homeowner could purchase if they so choose. So hopefully if you get a copy of that, I would like to see that it be brought back in a reasonable time for consideration. And then the second one is kind of a pitch for, it probably doesn't require formal council action, but a pitch on behalf of a lot of the residents who are looking forward to seeing Rio Del Mar and Donaldson Way get some kind of temporary relief. I would call it a Band-Aid because I know there's a lot of underground utilities that need to be done beforehand, but if next year when we're doing a lot of the old Rancho neighborhoods, if we could extend that improvement down Rio Del Mar to Donaldson and then across Donaldson to connect up with Benton Way, I think those are collector streets, local small collector streets, and probably ought to be treated a little better than some of the other local roads. So if there's a way that we can find the money to do that next year, I'd appreciate it. And if not, I'd love to have it on an agenda item so that the council could look into all of the pots of money that it has so that we can come up with the funding to add that on. So
I can support both of those being on the future agenda items.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
on that second topic, I think what we'll do is when we get the plans to, we're working on a project right now. So when we get the plans to a shareable phase, so that we can describe what the plans are, I'll share that with the council. And if we're already meeting that, I don't see it being as a future. If we're already sort of doing that, if we're missing the mark or coming up short, then we can talk about what an item looks like.
That makes sense to me. You know, when we look at that overall plan on what improvements that we're going to be doing.
Yeah, well, these won't
that's
be
the
like the
time for
full set
discussion.
of plans. It'll be the sort of project areas, limits, sort of the basics, and we'll take a look at that. On the first one, yeah, we would want to, haven't yet received anything from county planning staff aware that it was discussed at the last meeting. I expect something's imminent. I expect this will be the topic of the managers group meeting next week as well.
Okay.
would need a motion and a second and a vote to bring that back as a future item, so we keep our record keeping straight and all that. And once we get that from county staff, then yeah, we'll bring it forward.
Okay.
And
I'll make that motion then.
I'll second.
Motion second, roll call, please.
I'm sorry, what's the,
to,
what is the motion?
To bring the model reach code back relating to electric use.
Model reach
It's
code?
a model electric reach code.
Mhm.
I'm sure there's a better way of describing it, but that's what we're doing.
Okay.
Well, it was a rather detailed discussion, so.
Yeah.
But inside of that was exactly what you're talking about.
All righty, I got it. And Councilmember Abadamas?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Is that just a discussion, or are you bringing a policy forward to us?
It would be a sample ordinance to consider. So yes, it would be something that we could take action on.
that's actually a good clarification, Councilmember Joseph. What I was planning on bringing back was going to be a multiple step process.
Yeah.
So what I was going to bring back was, here's what the county gave us, here's what it means, here's the implications. Do you want staff to go through the process of creating our version of our ordinance and launching that effort? I wasn't planning to do it in one step with the first reading and
No.
second reading. So.
No, good point. Yes, it would be for a more formal, robust
Well, I think we
discussion.
need to have a discussion and a
Right.
better understanding of
Yeah.
it before we put together an ordinance.
Okay, yeah, it'd
Yeah,
be more for discussion.
You want to modify your motion
Yeah.
to include that?
Okay,
Model reach code discussion.
model reach code
Oh, reach code
discussion.
discussion. All right.
I'll still second.
And then Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Hold on.
Been here, David.
I didn't vote.
Oh,
I
I'm
didn't
sorry.
vote.
I thought you said yes.
No, I didn't. I had a clarifying question. And I wanted to be clear that, I know you're passionate about this, Councilmember Joseph, and I share a lot of those passions, but we don't have the context. And as long as you're good with the discussion and educating us, because you sit on that committee and we don't, I'm fine with bringing it back for discussion.
Discussion is where we're at for now. If I can't persuade you, then that's as far as it goes. But but I think you'll find it's not a bad idea. But discussion for now.
Thank you. I'll vote yes.
Okay. Mayor Garcia?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, anything else for future agenda items?
Only that we are canceling our meeting the week of Thanksgiving.
Right, Thanksgiving.
So we will see everyone on December
Yeah.
5th.
Well, I can't let the evening part without expressing my appreciation for all the work city staff's doing on the roads out there. Wow, and all the ADA curb and cut ramps. Good job. It's just, that's that rubber seal on there, I think, adds something to it. Years ago, we had a public works director when we redid American Canyon Road. That was all paved with that rubber coating. And the reason, as he presented it, was it's quieter. And I think you can notice a difference a bit on that. I think the asphalt leads for more noise generation from tires, and this is better. So anyway, just thank you. It looks good.
Thank you.
See more of it.
And in that regard, I think not only does it look good, it's significantly less than if you just went out and put a 1 or 2 inch layer of asphalt. So we're getting more roads done for the same bucks.
Yeah, and Public Works Director Smithies and I were talking about this. As we present future pavement award projects, one of the things we're going to start doing in the alternative section is to explain just what you said. So this particular project, we did, 80 or 90% more roads than we would have been able. We could have presented an alternative that said, okay, do your regular old grind and overlay. One street gets it, nobody else gets anything. But the one street gets an overlay. Or we can do all of this neighborhood with this other product, this other type, a much broader application, just so that the public understands what we're doing.
Well, I think too is that what condition is the road in, because there's
Sure.
an optimal point when you can do that, and then it reaches a part where you got to grind and overlay and all that. So very
Correct.
good. Thank you. Anything else for the good?
No, sir.
All right. Well, council colleagues, we have concluded our work for the evening. I'm wishing everybody happy holidays, Thanksgiving, get together with family and have a great time. And we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, American Canyon.